Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. And as always, thank you for all your support, including sharing, chatting, liking, and subscribing. Now roll that famous logo animation! Good evening, and welcome back to Computerized Start Live! I'm your host, Justin D. Morgan, and yes, I managed to start on time tonight, somehow, despite the fact that I had to take the trash out and package 2 items to ship to eBay buyers, and one of those items did not want to fit in any box that I picked, and I finally had to settle for a compromise between not having enough protection for the edges of the item and paying the postal service way too much for a 3-pound box. Anyways, speaking of on time, who do we have that was on time in the chat? We have Jeremy's Vintage Hillbilly Shack. Hi, Jeremy. We have Thomas Armstrong. Hi, Thomas. We have Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. Hi, Dave. We have Francois. Good evening, Francois. We have Gutbomb. Hi, Gutbomb. We have Joe. Joe's Computer Museum. Hi, Joe. Gutbomb's telling me, on time? Joe's like, it's a freaking miracle. And of course, my reply was, don't make me turn this live stream around. We have Francois with a little song in the chat. Right on time, right on time. We have Sloopy Malibu. Hi, Sloopy. Yes, it's odd that I'm on time on a Thursday. We have Point 5. Hi, Point 5. Who just realized that's the first time they've heard the intro music. Yes. We have Joe saying Justin has 3 intro theme songs. It's cute. Yes. Like Joe, I have a music guy. Unlike Joe, my music guy isn't Joe. We have Thomas Armstrong asking, I should buy a lottery ticket. Only if you're feeling lucky. We have Trina's Technobabble. Hi, Trina. And let's see here. I thought I saw Eric's Edge in the... I did see Eric's Edge in the chat. Hi, Eric. And I think I've caught everyone in the chat. Yeah, Joe says... Joe's saying in the chat, was going to say, my music guy is me. Yes, Joe. All right, so we've got the coffee goal. The link is in the description. Let's see here. I only just today bought something on eBay, so there is no Wheel of Regrets tonight. Sorry about that. I can only do Wheel of Regrets when I receive the item. Although, I've got a buyer that kind of made me a little bit disappointed this afternoon that they didn't read the description or the title. But I'm over that now. I accepted their request to cancel the transaction, and of course, in eBay fashion, it's always like penalize the seller for the buyer's mistake. But basically, eBay deducts the refund from your available balance, despite the fact that the buyer requested it and the buyer's payment's processing. No, it gets deducted from my available balance. So when funds from yesterday's auctions clear, well, yeah, I'm still in the hole until that buyer's payment finishes processing. So yeah, eBay's policy of punish the seller for the buyer's mistake. So yes, when you buy things on eBay, just be kind to the seller and actually read the description they bothered to write. Unless, of course, the seller didn't write a description, then I guess there's nothing for you to read. Also, you might look at the photos. I do believe a GTX 970 and an RTX 2060 look different. Just saying. Yeah, I asked the buyer what card they were looking for in the hopes that maybe I could say, oh yeah, I've got one of those in my pile. If you wait till this evening, I'll list it on eBay for you. But no, they're looking for something I don't even have for my own, let alone to sell. Eric says, this is how eBay makes money on your money. Yes, that's probably a good way of looking at it. They're going to earn the incremental interest on my money to immediately refund the buyer when whatever. Yeah, unfortunately, that's one of those scenarios of, did the buyer really buy the wrong thing and not pay attention? Yeah, quite possibly. Did they have buyer's remorse 20 minutes after they bought the item? Quite possibly. It's one of those, well, they asked to cancel, I haven't shipped it, so if I don't cancel it, then they're going to find another way to return it when they get the item, so yeah. Pickup Bump says, if only they'd been looking for Trident cards. Yeah, they would have found none on my eBay store, because my Trident cards are mine. Thomas Armstrong says, Trident cards are the best. Yes, they are. Let me see here. Joe sing the... Oh. Capbomb says you're a musician, right? Sort of. I don't know that I'm a musician enough to write my own songs. Jeremy says, it's like credit card companies where they are too interested in asterisks in your money. Yes. Alright, so tonight we are going to work on random repair projects, and to start it off as promised, I can't say that I didn't bother to remove this from my workbench, because you could probably see that it looks a bit different from where I had it Tuesday night. Sad Mac. Oh, hi, Sad Mac. Welcome. Yes. Sad Mac says, insert joke about tech tangents and PCI Ethernet cards. Yes. So I can't say I didn't remove this from my bench, because last night I came down to the basement to install DOS on a compact flash card for my coworker's IBM, and I installed games, but I did something stupid in the process, because an IBM portable personal computer doesn't support high-density drives, as far as I know, without, like, swapping the BIOS or putting in a floppy control card or something. So I decided, okay, I'm going to use another computer to install DOS. Absent-minded me says, oh, that's right, I have a 386 sitting on my bench. It will totally work to install DOS on a compact flash card. Until, of course, I put the XTIDE in the system, boot it up, and I'm like, oh, I didn't connect the floppy drive, so how am I going to install DOS? Oh, that's right. This silly thing can't boot a floppy drive. Wah, 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 wah. But in the process, I realized that the XTIDE Universal BIOS, well, it initialized, and it found the compact flash card, so I'd realized, oh, well, that means that this isn't causing a resource conflict with the onboard IDE that I can't disable. So, what I have done is I used said other computer, which, if anyone's wondering, yes, it was one of my Emerson PCs. I used said other computer to not only create a nice little compact flash card for my coworker's IBM portable personal computer, and I actually went to some website and I found a bunch of games and to put on it. Just some random games that had decent reviews of people playing them that were kid-friendly. Including Frogger, which was my coworker's request. She was like, whatever else you want to put on it, fine, but I remember playing Frogger, so please put Frogger on it. I think my boys will enjoy it. So, of course, I had to oblige. So, I did get Frogger, and I found some other games, including Yet, that was Gutbomb's suggestion. It's a Tetris clone. I found the Where in the U.S. is Carmen Sandiego, Where in Europe is Carmen Sandiego. I couldn't find Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. I found the Ford driving simulator, which I think I remember playing. I also put Castle Adventure on it, which I also remember playing back in the day. And then a bunch of other games that had decent ratings that work on CGA. And yes, for anyone that's wondering, Alley Cat was one of the games. But anyways, I then set up a second compact flash card. Seen here. This is also an awful compact flash card. It's actually pretty slow. I should have probably put this one in the IBM, but, well, too late now. Anyways, I installed DOS on it and check it. Okay, Gutbomb saying that was Sloopy's suggestion for a good Tetris for the 5150, so I'm passing it on. Yes. Alright, so, what we are going to do, because I have because I did something even more absent-minded last night. That I did make sure it would boot. But anyways, we're going to take another look at this. We're going to boot it. We're going to run check it. We're going to see if it finds any other problems. And if it doesn't, then we're going to tackle the broken transistor, which, yes, I also last night did manage to find my 3906s, so we're good there. And I also put a math coprocessor in because I kind of wanted to try to test as much as I could, and we'll go from there. Oh, it would probably help to turn the smart outlet on first. And while I turn the smart outlet on, if anyone is wondering, yes, it is rainy today. It has been raining most of the day. So when I said in my reminder social media announcement that it was a rainy day, that I was not kidding. It's a rainy day today. It is Tropical Depression Debbie, I believe. Alright, so I haven't done anything about the real-time clock, so let me go at least set these to some sane num values. That's close enough. It's quick enough to set this to 2024. Alright, whoops. Let's go ahead and set those to not installed. We'll set the hard drive to not installed just so it doesn't complain. And, okay, the one good thing is, it is showing the coprocessors installed. Thomas Armstrong says 5150 needs a 5161. No, I've been working on a 5155, which is the IBM portable personal computer. Alright, so I need to press F10 to exit. Francois says, anyone tried supercaps instead of CMOS batteries? Oh. Joe says, 5150 is a great song by Van Halen. I don't know how long supercaps would last instead of CMOS batteries. I think the answer could be, like, I don't know how long they'd last. I haven't tried it. Alright, so, finally, I found something this computer will boot. Thanks to the XTIDE Universal BIOS. So let's go ahead and we'll run check it here. Francois says it'd probably hold charge for a week or so. CR2032 batteries are cheaper than supercaps. Thomas Armstrong says, I like jumpers, not batteries. Well, this is good. It is encouraging that the system sees the math coprocessor, so that at least means there's not broken traces there. Alright, so nothing we probably didn't know already. BIOS from January 15th, 1988. Wow, that's kind of old. Of course, this might be an early 386SX machine. Alright, well, there's that. How about let's just go for memory test, and I'm just going to run a quick memory test. This is basically just to kind of check out what's in the machine and see if we got any, like, obvious failures. Now, I'm not going to run the floppy or the hard drive test. We already know that the system's not seeing those. I just want to maybe confirm that there's nothing else that I might be looking for broken traces for. Because if something else fails, it could be a clue to the failure being in a different place other than, like, on the side of the board where the floppy and hard drive controller is. I mean, it still could be somewhere else, but since I finally figured out a way to get it to boot, now, though granted, it's still hard to install software because no floppy drive on this computer yet. I mean, I could install some parallel port zip drive drivers and install software that way. There'd be a start. I do have a parallel zip drive. Okay, so at least a quick memory test passes. That's a good sign. Alright, no need to test those. So let's run the system board test. Alright, that's good. Oh, no, the math coprocessor was not included with this computer. I pulled one out of my stock. In fact, actually, the math coprocessor in here was in my Emerson 386, but I had bought a different math coprocessor for it. I'd heard that there was a some of the Cyrix math coprocessors were faster than others, so I got one of the supposedly faster versions for the Emerson 386. Hey, it's a special computer for unknown reasons, so I bought it a special math coprocessor. Okay, that's good. So CPU's working, NPU's working, so probably no broken traces there. DMA controller's working and the interrupt controller's working, so far so good. Real-time clock. Now, granted, it's going to fail flat on its face if I power the system off because it has no connection to the battery. It has no connection to the non-present battery, but otherwise, the real-time clock is seemingly working. Hi, Jesse. We have I8386SX in the chat. Alright, I do not have serial and parallel port dongles. I don't have a printer easily connectable, sadly. Video. Alright, so let's run the video tests. So, I guess flashing graphics warning, so if you're sensitive to flashing graphics, you might want to, like, look away, and I'll let you know when the graphics tests are done. Alright, so we're going to commence in 3, 2, 1. Alright. Sadmax says, thanks for the heads up. No problem. Hey, it looks like we got Y2K compliant possibly in the chat. I think my, I don't know, YouTube is doing something really weird for my chat, so I will apologize in advance if I miss comments. I think chat might be misbehaving. Alright. So we're running the multi-access screen test, so that works. And, alright. So I'm just going to go through the graphics pages. I don't suspect any of these are going to have trouble, considering there was no battery damage in this area of the board, but... Oh, Francois was celebrating your machine's compliance. Oh! Because there is a YouTube user named Y2K Compliant. Oh, okay, Sadmax says, right now the flashing isn't bothering me, but when it does, I really just get headaches. Okay, well that's good to know, but I always do try to at least if I know there's flashing, I do like to at least warn folks. Because you never know who's watching. Now, obviously, I could run a test somewhere that's not supposed to flash and it happens and I have to give a late warning, but at least in this case, I do know that this test can have rapidly moving graphics, so at least I knew to warn in advance. So far, I think the graphics chip looks like it's working fine. I don't know that it's a spectacular performing chip. There's the CGA color palette. Right. Color palette tests. I may have to put the ahead graphics in a two-way match with the Trident graphics someday. Will the ahead graphics be ahead of the Trident? Okay, I believe the main cause of flashing in Check It is done. I guess while we're here, though, we'll run a few quick benchmarks just so we can kind of see. So, Check It is reporting the CPU is running at 15.6 megahertz, which is just a touch slow from its rated 16 megahertz system speed. Well, there we go. I can do math fast on this system. It's only about 8.92 times the speed of an IBM PCXT, but 120.72 times for math with this math coprocessor. Alright, I'll run a video benchmark. I don't think it doesn't cause flashing, luckily. Alright. And our graphics are 7.73 and 7.43 times the IBM PCXT. That is not the most astounding performance. But the important thing is Sadmax says, the advance warning says to me that you actually think about that potentially being an issue for viewers, and I appreciate that. Well, no problem. Trina says, where's Amber when you need her to tell you about the graphics? I don't know. All right. So, it looks like this part of the board is probably fine now, because I know those repairs that I did Tuesday were on the bottom side of the board in, like, going from points over here to points, like, even under the chipset. So, the good thing is, I think that means that there's at least no more broken traces in this side of the board. Now, we know that there's broken traces here at the battery, and we know there's a broken transistor, so we'll get to that in a moment. Oh, hey Frank, welcome. So, without further ado, let's pull this board out and let's get that transistor out of the board, and we'll then see if, because it is possible, although I'm not going to hold my breath, that transistor is the one failure keeping the floppy and hard drive from working. I doubt that's going to magically fix the real-time clock not getting battery voltage, because I'm pretty sure that's more than just the one failure, but if I can fix the hard drive and the floppy drive issue, I think I've pretty much decided that I'm going to attempt to fix the real-time clock by getting one of those Dallas DS1287 boards from Glitchworks and modding this chip with one of those. And if you're wondering why I'm not going to use a NecroWare module, it's because I believe this real-time clock module is actually emulating, well, I don't think it's emulating Motorola mode. I think it implements Motorola mode. So that would require, I mean, I could probably make one of the benchmark chips work. I think they can emulate Motorola mode. Certainly, I could put a Dallas DS12885 on the module instead of a benchmark chip. And I know those can emulate Motorola, but you got to do a mod. But the thing is, I believe this chip works. So why don't I can just do the mod, and that basically gives it a battery on top of the module. And then I really wouldn't have to worry about any more of this mess than is required to get the remaining functionality working. Because quite honestly, I know I normally like to go for like a complete restoration, but let's face it, it's not like I'm going to put a NiCad battery back on this at all, ever. So, quite honestly, if I replace the battery by putting one on the module, it's so there. If anyone's wondering about the bodges, there's the bodge work I did. All right, and the transistors are, I believe the transistors are going to be these components here. And the transistor that's broken is the one on the inside of the board. So I need to remove these 3 pins. And let me see if I can't. Honestly, I'm just going to try some solder braid. We'll go for... Jesse says, I spent far too long on a DS1287 tonight. Francois says, if the leg is just cut but still here, you can just solder a small wire to it or maybe even join both halves with a solder blob. Unfortunately, I don't think I can get a soldering iron in there to fix it. So, because it's not just a simple matter that the leg is broken, I think it's that this transistor was bent over and it got knocked this direction, because there is like, I don't think I can get a soldering iron in there to podge that. So I was just going to remove the transistor and replace it, assuming the ones I have the same pin out. Now, if they don't have the same pin out, then while the transistor is out, then I will bodge a wire on it and we'll put it back. But I don't think I can get the soldering iron in there. I certainly can't get it in that small space to solder a wire on it. And I don't think I can solder blob that far of a distance. Because there is less leg there than I would expect for... So I could also solder a 3-pin female header if you have one of those machined ones and stuff the transistor in. Joe says, boom or something, I'm exploding things. I don't have any of the proper pin headers, and I've not had good luck with putting transistors in them. Although maybe that's because I used the wrong headers. And all right, let's see if that transistor willing to actually, I think I see probably I think I see something about the transistor that might vindicate my decision to remove it. It's because in removing it, a second leg broke on it. So if I had bodged it, it is quite possible that it would have stopped working very shortly thereafter from a fatigued leg. All right, now let me see if I can get the vias clear, because there's a leg stuck in 2 of them. This is where I will probably use a small amount of low melt solder. Heat it up. And then see if I can gently make that fall out of the board. Dave says, don't do what Nate did last week. Well, Dave, I'm not planning on using a 95 plus gold power supply on this thing. Unless he did something else, too. And I know for those of you all that are like, what's a 95 plus gold power supply? I didn't think there was such a thing. Well, officially there isn't such a thing. That is not a real level of the 80 plus certification group. I'm also not going to be plugging in 12 volt CPU power, so all right. Okay. I think I got the transistor legs out. Now if I could just see where they were on the board. There they were. Okay. So let me find my component tester. This is going to be the fun part. I was wanting to confirm pinout, but we've got the broken leg. So if this probably kind of, given how the legs look, so the middle one broke off while I was removing it tonight. This rightmost one was the one that was broken. This tells me that this component was probably installed on the board sideways and got bumped this way, because there was a gap of like, it looked like 2 or 3 millimeters of pin that was not present on this transistor. But in order to replace it, I do need to confirm its pinout. So I am going to for testing purposes, I'm going to attempt to solder a piece of a that may not work. Actually, let me see if I can find my other tester. Oh, wait. It's a... my other tester, I think it's... Oh, no, it's not painful to replace the battery. Yeah, the battery's dead in my other tester. It's got some pads that all you got to do is hold the component to the pads. So let me see if this battery has enough juice in it to power this tester. Oh, it does. Okay. Here we go. This might actually work. All right. So this transistor, and I'm going to see if I can hold it on the pads marked 1, 2, and 3. Oh, that's not working. Okay. Well, this one's got a ZIF socket. I'll feel a little better about soldering a piece of a leg onto this if I'm using a ZIF socket. Because I'd kind of be afraid that if I insert it into my other tester, because I've misplaced the ZIF socket, I'd be afraid I'd break the leg off in that, and then I'll have... Because I like that tester a little better, because the color screen is kind of over the top. All right. There we go. There's that. All right. And there's that. Now, is there any way I am going to be able to solder those together and it stay? Probably not. There is not a lot. There is really not a lot of pin left on this transistor. Oh, but I did. It's probably not going to be strong, but it might be enough to put this component in the ZIF socket. Problem might be this other pin. Oh, I'm going to need to. I need to put a little piece on this other pin too, because it's too short. It's too short to put in the socket as well. So oh, that. Okay, now I'm just making a mess. Okay, come on. Okay, let's try some flux. I wish I would stop misplacing my ceramic tweezers. Not that they're the greatest of gripping things, but they don't sink heat. Alright. Alright, let's see if I can get this leg onto here. Only has to stay long enough to test the component, and then it can fall off all at once. Alright. I think the big bad biologist would call that 100% janky, but folks, if it works, oh, well, okay, that didn't quite work. There we go. Alright. So, pin 1 is the emitter, pin 2 is the base, pin 3 is the collector. EBC. Okay, so the transistor is good, it just had a broken leg. EBC. Alright. So let me now pull out one of these modern ones. That will be a whole lot easier to put in the tester. And I'm pretty sure that the pinout's the same. EBC. Yep. Alright. What's the reference? I don't get the reference. Did I say something and you're asking what I was referring to? Because I've probably already forgotten. I have a limited Q depth when live streaming. But anyways, the pinout is the same. So they're both 2N3904 transistors. But sometimes, even when the transistor has the same part number, oh, what's the reference on the comp tester? Let me see. No, the transistor. It's a 3904. Oh, EBC, emitter base collector. Yeah. It was something I could remember to between components. So E's the emitter, B's the base, and C's the collector. So it's a. I just needed to remember what the pinout was on the one because I just wanted to make sure the modern ones I had the same pinout. Yeah, likely a 2N3904. I can put the old transistor under the microscope to double check it. All right, well that looks okay. That looks good. I guess I can go ahead and clip the legs here. All transistor says it's NPN. No, it's a 2N3906. Sorry. Yeah, it's a 2N3906, which is a PNP. I got, yeah. I think the transistor beside it is actually a 3904. So, unfortunately, I can't read the writing on the other transistor. Joe says 3906 is a TUP, Transistor Universal PNP. Oh, you heard 04. Well, I probably misspoke. Okay, but we got a new transistor in. And I think it's soldered. Yeah, I think this one might be a 3904. I was trying to look at it, and I was having trouble reading the writing. Because if I find it's bad, then I don't know where my 3904s are. Anyways, so there's the 3906 I just put in, and here's the 39. I think that one might be a 3904. But luckily it's not broken. But there's the 3906 I just put in. And looks like, yeah, it's a PNP. In fact, here's the original one. So there it is. Yep, 3906. And there's what it looks like now that I tacked two legs onto it. That is some fine soldering there. Someone let the big bad biologist know that I'm coming after his trademark jankiness. That's a pretty bad solder joint. But yep, that's the original transistor. It's the 3906. So nothing special. Probably nothing. Yeah, I would probably, if there'd been a little bit more on that transistor, I probably would have tried soldering a wire, but that one leg was, it really looks like the transistor went in sideways at the factory, and then someone pushed it sideways, and because there was a fairly substantial gap between the leg that was sticking out of the board and the bottom of the transistor. So sometimes you just have to say, well, yeah, similar to the 386 calls that a de-soldering job. Well, it won't win any awards. But the thing is, that soldering job may have not won any awards, but it did let me confirm that it was a PNP transistor. Well, I mean, I was pretty sure it was from the label. More importantly, it let me confirm the pinout was that, like, it wasn't a variant that had a different pinout. Because there are some transistors that I think over the years their standard pinout changed. I know I'm not going crazy, but I know there's some transistors, or some of the transistors that they changed pinouts. Yeah, we'll probably be quick to agree or disagree. It could maybe be that they were MOSFETs, not transistors, but I'm pretty sure I've seen some of those devices that the common pinout changed over the years. All right, so I have plugged the hard drive back in. I have plugged the floppy drive back in. This hard drive is probably bigger than it. Oh. But two things I did not plug back in were video and power. So we have now confirmed, once again, that this 386 does not support any wireless technologies, including Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or wireless power delivery. Well, welcome, AL81 boy. Alright, so I'm just going to set this again to some Okay, I will go ahead and set. So this hard drive is 2100 1663, and I suspect it may not actually be supported because it doesn't even calculate a size. Okay, so I think what I can tell is we don't have the floppy controller. It's not even accessing the. Probably has a 1024 1663 limit. Yeah, probably. The interesting thing is, okay, the interesting thing is, it didn't complain about no hard drive. But it certainly didn't seek the floppy drive. I know you couldn't see it, but I was trying to watch the LEDs, and it did not seek the GoTech. So let me put the XT back in. And maybe I did it fast enough that it didn't reset the BIOS settings. See, it calculated the hard drive size there. Alright. We'll go to F-Disk and we'll see. We'll see if F-Disk. 'Cause, 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 So interesting. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Joe, I haven't been able to sys the disk. It should be trying to boot from the XTIDE, but I have a feeling this computer is now seeing IDE devices. Yes, Joe, your comments still stand. Okay. Hmm. The thing is, the compact flash card in my XTIDE is properly sysed. We booted from it a little while ago. But it looks like the onboard hard drive is the C drive. And now, how do we finagle the silly machine when we don't have floppy? Well, now that's a good question, Joe. And I think the answer is I'm going to hope that maybe the XTIDE might. I'm going to see what the boot menu will let me do. Maybe it'll let me boot the. Oh, well, now that's interesting. There's a. There we go. Yes, Delkin Devices is the compact flash card, yes. Not related to Belkin. Delkin makes or made camera. Joe, I told it to boot the compact flash card. Alright, let's see if it sees this. Oh, wait a minute. Look at that. 5. Two. 4. Oh, look at that. There's the partition act. Wait a minute. Or is that my compact? No, that's my compact flash card. I think. Alright, 5. 1. 4. Or is that my compact flash card? Alright. There's a way to tell. Okay, the C drive has Check It on it. And I installed it at 11. Oh, it was 11:30 last night. Okay, I think that's the compact flash card. So the D drive does. Okay, the D drive must be this hard drive. Okay. Five, 2. Actually, wait a minute. Why don't I just do this? All right, format D/S. Drive D error. Insufficient memory to read all system info. There was an error creating the format recovery file. Oh, because it's a 40 megabyte partition. Hey, K-Back Vintage, welcome. Joe, I think it's because the system is freaking out over the geometry I entered into the system BIOS. Okay. Okay, I have done an fdisk/mbr. Now, does that automatically do it on all drives, or... Well, I hope it does. Alright, let's see if it'll boot from that C drive now. If it doesn't boot from the C drive, then we'll go back into the BIOS and we will set the geometry to 1024 1663 and try again. It could be that the system's freaking out over the geometry. Okay, it does not like the geometry of that C drive, so let's try this. 1024 1663. Alright. Yeah, it did. Error loading operating system. Fun with geometry. The geometry's probably wrong on that drive. Alright, fine. Well, I did a /s, but I've got geometry problems going on. Potentially. I don't know. Joe, the geometry of this drive is 2100 1663. This BIOS doesn't like that. So I put in 1024 1663, but I don't know what system I partitioned it on. I've got geometry issues going on. I'm going to boot from the compact flash card. I'm going to wipe all the partitions on the Caviar. I'm going to recreate them, and we'll go from there. Joe says if the BIOS doesn't like it, you can't use it, period. Well, the BIOS seems to like it now. There could still be problems. Oh. I can't make... Well, that might be a problem. I'm not going to be able to make that partition active on this computer because I can't boot from a floppy drive or floppy disk. That's going to be a problem. Because you can only make partitions active on the C drive or on the first hard drive. I'm probably going to have to put that hard drive into another computer. No, Thomas, that's not the geometry problems we're having. That is comical. It really does see that Caviar drive as a 10 megabyte drive. Hmm. So I guess we're going to have to figure out the problem with the floppy controller so that I can maybe, just maybe, be able to boot from a floppy disk to, I don't know, that's pretty ridiculous. It only supports 10 megabytes. Oh, Control Alt S goes into setup on this computer. I just discovered that. Oh, hi, Scarlet the Four-Eyed Cuda. Um, Scarlet the Four-Eyed Cuda says, so what Joe is saying is that a BIOS is a lot like a spouse. If they say no, you can't play. Joe is asking, is this hard drive period accurate for the machine? Probably not. I can't find a smaller hard drive. Let's not try putting the compact flash card in directly. But I had trouble with that last time I tried it. Joe says if it's not period accurate, then just put a compact flash card in it and have fun playing with it instead of spending 20 hours trying to get a hard drive working. Joe, I'm... The only reason I'm trying to use this hard drive is because I'm trying to make sure the IDE port works, which it seemingly does, and because it's the smallest hard drive I could find because I have misplaced a 300 megabyte Seagate drive, and the drive that came with this computer appears to be deader than a doornail. Unfortunately, I am... Okay, Joe! I am trying. Alright, I gotta go find a different compact flash card adapter. Jesse says, some computers will absolutely not play nicely with a compact flash card. Yeah, this computer might be one of them. I was having trouble with the compact flash card, but this adapter, like, physically is not plugging into this connector correctly because the power connector is too close. Well, actually, maybe it is plugging in correctly. Alright. Joe says, I love you, Justin. I hate seeing you suffer. Yeah, thank you, Joe. 738, 432. Jesse says 40, 80, 120 megabytes is 386 era appropriate. I will get back to that comment in a moment. Okay, now that I have entered the numbers that I didn't want to forget into the BIOS, I don't. The only 40 megabyte hard drive I have is apparently dead. That also happens to be the 40 megabyte hard drive that was in this computer. And it doesn't appear as if there is anything I can do about it. No boot device available. Strike F1 to retry boot. F2 for setup utility. It. I don't think this computer likes this compact flash card, or I put the card in backwards. Yeah, I know, Joe. I have the only 40 megabyte hard drive I'm okay. The only 40 megabyte IDE hard drive that I have, and I know this is probably going to disappoint some people that this drive is dead. I'll let interested parties read the part number off the screen so they can be sad that the hard drive's dead. This is the hard drive that was in this computer. It is dead. I mean, it spins up. I hear the head seek, but it wants to do absolutely nothing on this computer, and I couldn't get another computer to like it either. I think it was seemingly jumpered wrong in this computer, but even after jumpering it right, it's not seen. I don't think percussive maintenance will fix it because it's the head seek. It spins up. There's something wrong with it. It spins up the head seek, so the heads are not stuck and the platter's not stuck. I mean, and it sounds fine. That's the weird thing. It just doesn't work. Or at least I haven't been able to get it to work on another computer because the aforementioned floppy drive problem with this computer means I can't format it in this computer, and I can't get it to work in another computer to format it. Maybe I haven't tried something old enough. I don't know. But this computer doesn't seem to like this compact flash card. Point 5 says it's only mostly dead. Yeah, that's true. So it's kind of where this computer is right now, and I don't know that I really want to spend the entire stream working on it, but I could be convinced to. I can't boot a floppy disk. In fact, I don't even see any signs that it's seeking floppy disks. I don't have a hard drive that it seems to like. But given that geometry issues, I really need to format it in this computer probably, which means I need to get the floppy drive working. Unfortunately, as you probably saw in the BIOS, there's no disable floppy controller setting in the BIOS, and there is no disable floppy controller jumper setting that I can tell. Because the RetroWeb does have a jumper manual for what I believe is this board, and they agreed with my identification, so for all intents and purposes, it is this board. Unfortunately, there are some factory configured do not alter jumper settings that no one's identified what they do or what even the default setting is. You can enable and disable the parallel and serial ports on this board. You can enable and disable CGA emulation IRQ2, but there's no way to disable the floppy controller, so I can't just jam another controller card on this board. Jesse says, I have an ST9145AG with the same problem. It sounds fine, but nobody's home. Francois says, I could trace those jumpers to the chipset pins. Well, the floppy controller is not on the chipset. The floppy controller is right here. Which begs the question, can I find a data sheet for that floppy controller? Well, let's see. That is an SMC FDC 37C65 CLJ. Oh, it's a 2.88 megabyte floppy disk controller. Well, that's neat. Too bad at the moment it's a 0 megabyte floppy disk controller. Okay, I've got some pin definitions. All right, I guess I can. I don't I don't want to do anything to the chipset. I'm not going to try to lift pins or anything. Francois says it's probably the chipset that handles address decoding and generates the chip select, so possibly it can be stopped. Well, I don't have a data sheet for the chipset anyways, so I'm not. Well, the other thing is controversial opinion, but this this computer only has two ISA slots, and I really don't want to give one up to a floppy controller card. FDC 37C 651. It's an FDC 37C 65 CLJ. And I have the data sheet up on my screen. But I don't want to give a slot up for a floppy controller card. Francois says no, but you could possibly set some registers with debugger, whatever. I mean, I need to be able to boot a floppy disk, which means I need to be able to boot a floppy disk. I don't see how I can set debug registers and then boot a floppy disk. Maybe I'm being unusually dense, but because the moment I reboot the computer, then it's just the BIOS is going to set it up again. I don't think it's working at all, Francois. I don't see it even attempt to, I don't, if I put the real floppy drive on it, I don't see it attempt to seek. Or I don't even hear it attempt to seek. With the GoTech, I don't see any signs that it tries to seek either. I think it's like, I was going to pull the oscilloscope out and see if there were even any. I was going to make sure the floppy controller at least had like voltage and clocks. Although this is made harder by the fact that I keep losing the BIOS settings because. All right, let me see if I can find my oscilloscope probe. Oh, yes, of course. My one working oscilloscope probe had to fall on the floor. Okay. Seriously, I am probably just going to have to bite the bullet and buy a new oscilloscope because it is about near impossible to get Tektronix oscilloscope probes at reasonable prices. No, Francois, I need something. I know normally I would buy the solution from Joe, but no, the remote battery board actually won't help me because the battery circuit is all busted up. I actually need the Glitchworks. I think I need a module from Glitchworks to fix it. Now, maybe Joe could become a Glitchworks distributor. That would be cool. But um, I think I need the module from Glitchworks to fix this one. All right, I'm going to see if I see any signs that this is even working. Let me see if I can find a pin that I know I should see. Oh, okay. So I think pin. Luckily, I think pin 1 is on the side that's facing me. So let's see, that should be 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pin 44. So pin 44 is actually helpfully VCC. And okay, so it does look like we are getting 5 volts on VCC. Now, pin 1 is read, which is active low. And if I could. Alright, let's go to the trigger menu. Edge source, channel 1. Yeah, that's correct. And type is. Actually, I do believe I want the type to be. Whoops. Oh, no, actually, I do want an edge. Okay. So, edge, but the slope is on the falling edge. Okay. I think that's correct. Okay, falling edge, and. Whoop, did I not arm it? Oh, please. Where's the trigger arm button? Trigger menu. Mode auto. Okay. Oh, shift single trigger. Okay. Let me hook. All right. Do I even get a Oh, I think we triggered. Okay, so it looks like maybe we're getting something to the read signal. Right? Which is also active low. Shift, single trigger. Oh. Okay, whoops. Alright, so that should be some TC thing. DAC. Okay, I think I'm on address 0. Oh, and I got the wrong slope, but I think that was okay. Shift, single trigger. So, that's what I was asking. Isn't there some software that can edit chipset registers? Well, some BIOSes let you do it, but the BIOS in this computer is so bare bones. That is not an option. So I'm seeing signals coming to the floppy controller. I mean, I don't know what I should be seeing. So that's the data pin 0. So seemingly, even though the computer's just sitting here, it seems like there is still data going to the floppy controller. Here we go. Let me see if by chance. Okay, so I think this is oh, how do I tell it to just okay. Come on, how do I just go away? I don't want the trigger menu anymore. We're fine. Go away, trigger menu. And now, how do I just have you start running again? No, that's not it. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I just want you to turn the trigger off now. Trigger menu. Oh, maybe I set it to auto. No. Okay. I don't want trigger anymore. Arg. Just saying it's going to have data all the time. It's only useful if it's been selected. Alright. Let's see if it's ever getting a chip select. But that's only going to be helpful if I can ever get... Sorry, my oscilloscope and I are having a fight here. Fine. Oh, I didn't want that. No, no, just trigger menu. Auto. Fine. Slope. Let's see. Chip select is active low. Fine. You win. You win oscilloscope. Single trigger. Alt delete. I don't. Thomas is asking, is this the battle floppy drive? All right, I think I got my oscilloscope into just auto set, you silly thing. And slope. Oh, slope falling. All right. Level. Okay, 50%. No, that's not the level I want. Set it to. Okay, that's fine. All right. Shift. Single trigger. Falling edge. Wait a minute. Is this telling me what I think it might be trying to tell me? Is chip select stuck low? Or is it just my oscilloscope not? Or am I fighting with? Might be. Joe says chip select low means the controller is selected all the time, usually. It also could mean that my oscilloscope is not actually. That I don't have it set right. Okay, I probably just need to break down and buy a new oscilloscope, one that's not so. No, I want you to stop triggering now. Stop it. Mode. No, I don't think I want that. I just want you to free run. Shift. Requirement. No, that's not the require menu. Okay. Oh. Okay. Shift. Single trigger. Because now it looks like we got a high signal on what I think's chip select. And wait, did I? Unfortunately, with my oscilloscope one, I can't see the output of this computer unless I plug the computer into another capture input. Okay, either I have gotten my oscilloscope into some mode where it is like doing something silly, because it's telling me on the trigger side of the panel it's ready, which seemingly tells me it's not armed. I clearly see that channel 1 is set for falling edge. I mean, you can see it there on the bottom of the screen. Channel 1 set for falling edge. Okay, you can't see what it says on the top of the screen, but it says run 500 kilosamples a second, sample, and then trig question mark, and that's an inverse on the panel. The LED's behind ready, so if I hit shift, single trig, it like briefly goes to arm and then back to ready, but or it goes to triggered and back to ready, but I don't see a dip that goes low. Do you? Fine. We'll go to 10 milliseconds. Shift. Trigger. I don't know. My oscilloscope's not triggering. I guess to your point, Francois, we could start. Francois says, check the chipset docks. They don't generate the chip select line directly for the floppy controller, so it must come from some other chip. How may be. It doesn't. I'm having trouble with my oscilloscope. Oh, look. It triggered once I removed the oscilloscope probe from it. Thanks, oscilloscope. I don't know. Is it too much to ask to have a nice, a new oscilloscope that actually has a video input that I can still share it with you all? Joe says you have it set to trigger on signal low, which means for that entire time it never went low. Well, actually, it looks like it might have never went low because the system was stuck waiting for me to. Alright, well, let me set the BIOS up again. Because I think that's why it was never. Why am I even bothering? It's just going to forget most of that. Anyways. Alright, there's no hard drive installed. There's a floppy installed. Fine. Function 10. That should be close enough for government work. Okay. No boot device available. Strike F1 to retry boot. F2 for setup utility. So, alright. So I guess now, I'll turn the oscilloscope back on. Well, it was held high, but what I couldn't see was it was stuck at the screen waiting for me to press F1 to continue, F2 to set up. So it quite possibly never selected the floppy controller. Six. This should be pin 6, 5, 4, 3. Pin 3, 6, 5, 4, 3. Okay. Channel 1. Okay, so it did save my trigger settings. So I'm going to manually check to make sure it's going to trigger by removing the oscilloscope probe from the pin. Okay, so the oscilloscope. Okay, so I'm going to trigger it again. And now I'm going to try hit function 1. It's not selecting the floppy drive. We are not getting a chip select. I think that's the failure mode. Okay, I guess, let me pull the board out. I don't know where the chip select's coming from. I have a suspicion of where the chip select is coming from. I do not like where that suspicion is leading. Oh, let's see where the... I will go ahead and say for the record, I do not have a device that can read PALs. Because I don't think either of my chip programmers can read these PALs. And also for the record, they may not be my PAL. We do have a PAL here. It is a finger, it is within a finger's distance of the floppy controller. Kind of, sort of looks like it might be green. Okay, let's see if maybe by chance... I hope it's not a PAL issue. Joe says I'm your pal. Yes, thank you, Joe. Thomas says, we have an air show practicing tonight. It's noisy. Okay. I'm not going to use my oscilloscope for this part of the test, because my oscilloscope would probably get stuck in some mood and not help me. Alright, I'm hoping that maybe 6543. I'm hoping that maybe we're just going to find that whatever pin is doing chip select, I'm going to presume it's on this PAL. Because that's the only PAL I see on the board. Alright. Okay. I don't see... Oh, that was my probe. Alright, excellent. So the chip select... Alright, so the chip select goes down this via here. I'll put a little blue mark on the board so that I don't have to go find that again. Francois says, well, if it's socketed, you could remove it. Put it in a socket which you bend the pin you want to remove. I really would like to get this floppy controller working. I don't want to have to give up one of my slots for a floppy controller card, because then that means my primary objective for this computer fails. Because if I have to give up a slot for a floppy controller, then well, that means I can only have a sound card, and I was wanting to put a SCSI card in here too. I do not have any SCSI cards that have floppy controllers. Now, of course, maybe if a random Retro Tech Chris would appear in the chat, we might see if he knows of anyone that might have said SCSI controller with a floppy controller. Actually, I'm noticing something here. Oh, maybe not. Is that it? All right. Oh, that's because. Is that it? Nope. Okay, I've almost got it. So there. Okay, so I've got our. I see our via for the chip select on the other side here. And it is. Should be this one here. Let me make sure I still have a connection. I am not going to put a Pico Gust in this computer. I know that might be disappointing to some, but it's not going to get a Pico Gust. I have a different computer that'll get a Pico Gust. I mean, I guess one way I could get around if I did really not get the floppy controller working, I guess I could. I mean, I could. I don't. Oh, if you want to throw a Pico Gust at me, by all means. Okay, so this is the point where I try to find where things are going by looking for the oscilloscope probe sticking up through the board. It's a highly scientific method. There we go. No, that's a capacitor. Never mind. So the chip select goes under the board and then. Oh, I think I see. Then it comes back to this side of the board. Have I played with clone Gus's? Alright, and there's our chip select there. And that goes. Ooh, where does that trace go? That trace goes to the danger zone. Oh, fun fact. So here's where a chip select is going to. It's hard to see on the side of the board, but you can just see the little silvery shiny spot. That's actually one of my bodge wires on the other side. Right there. So the chip select goes from here down to behind this silk screen, and I can't see where it goes from there. I'm presuming it might go to this resistor pack, but I cannot tell you where the trace goes from there because the trace just kind of vanishes underneath the solder mask. Francois says, suspiciously close to the battery. Thomas, I have used I built one of the original PicoGust versions. So that trace, is it me or does it look like that trace? Oh, okay. That's interesting. So it looks like that is connected to here. Francois says, I think it goes between the empty jumpers and the resistor pack. Maybe it's a disable jumper for the floppy drive. I really don't want to. I would like to get the floppy controller working. I really don't want to have to use a floppy controller card. Yes, it does go to the resistor pack. So we got a connection to there. That's the resistor pack. Those jumpers aren't documented. They're not documented. I don't know what they actually do. I'm really a software guy that plays a hardware guy on YouTube. In fact, depending on what the jumper labels were of those jumpers, oh no, I don't think they're even mentioned on the documentation. So, I mean, yeah, the silkscreen says floppy drive and hard drive, but I, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. So, oh, oh, I gotta change modes. All right. Is this resistor pack resistoring? Okay, so we have 10 kiloohms between those 2 points. 10 kiloohms there. 10 kiloohms there. 10 kiloohms there. 10 kiloohms there. Okay. Is the other pad for the jumper going to ground or 5 volts? I don't know. Don't think it's going to ground. Um, I think I just had a realization in the back of my mind. I don't know which it's I don't know if it's going. It's not going to ground, but it's not going to 5 volts. There's our problem. It's another victim of the battery leak. So I think here's the problem. Whatever's causing the real-time clock to not get voltage from. So the real-time clock has no connection to this header here. This is the external battery header. I cannot tell you why the external battery header is so far away from everything that uses battery power. Francois, I can't tell you which one it is. It's not connected to either of them. I checked. The square pin has no connection to ground, and it has no connection to 5 volts. That's probably our problem, but I can't tell you. It's not connected to either at the moment. That's most certainly our problem. I don't know which it's supposed to be connected to. But I don't think it's connected. Oh, wait. It is connected to something. Never mind. I have no idea why it didn't. Okay, I don't know what it's connected to until I actually figure out what I did with the power supply. Also, I'm not sure why I wasn't getting a resistance measurement until just now. All right. So, okay, the power connector coming from the power supply is black, red, white, yellow, red, black. I think the 2 pins it had connectivity to are the pins, one end from each side, which would be the red wire. So I believe that would be 5 volts. I think that I think it's a I think they're pull-ups. Yeah. Okay. So the resistor pack is connected to 5 volts. I there's no the yeah, there's no jumpers connected, but it's connected here on the bottom of the board. So we've got this this pin here is coming from the chip select. Wait. Yeah, the jumper's not populated with the pads there. Well, I don't know what it goes to. But this is I don't you might have to elaborate a little more because it's like 11 o'clock here and I don't. Okay, the other pad of the jumper that's not connected is not going to ground. It's not going to anything. It's not going to ground, it's not going to 5 volts. I'm checking these other jumpers too. This pad here is not connected to anything. I don't have a connection to ground. I don't have a connection to 5 volts. It's connected to nothing at the moment. I don't know. There's no connection. The, I mean, I I mean, I don't know for sure that I don't know if it's connected to a pad on the PAL. I mean, I would presume that this worked at one point, and I didn't remove those jumpers. So I have to assume, and I realize what assuming does, but I have to assume that no one has reworked this board before I got to it, and that those are not populated because they were not populated at the factory. No, I'm thinking the problem's not. I think this is the PAL chip. I'm hoping this is the PAL chip. No, I don't think there's. Well, how in the world would this have ever been a working computer? Is it really possible a computer like this would have shipped without a floppy drive? I mean, the thing is, the RetroWeb documentation has nothing about floppy and hard drive enabled disabled jumpers. The jumper positions aren't even mentioned. Well, I hate to say it, but well, I was about to give up, but there we go. That pad is connected to this pin on the PAL. I am going to fine. I'll install some headers. I don't know what to think at this point. I mean, in my defense, those are not documented. Remember, I'm a software guy playing a hardware guy. I have to assume that a computer that seemingly shipped with a floppy drive based on all the information I had would have had a functional floppy controller. I have no idea if the IDE interface works without the jumper. Probably doesn't. How would this? I don't. Please, someone, tell me how. Please, tell me how. We have 40 megabyte disk, QDOS 3, without those jumpers, if those really are the enabled jumpers for the hard drive and the floppy drive. Please, someone tell me. That makes no sense to me. I'm stumped. Please. Theories. I mean, yeah. That is why I was assuming that those were not populated because they never intended you to disable them, because the machine, and I mean, I have to believe those are vintage labels and not something someone just crafted 3 weeks ago on a, a dynamo. I mean, that's why I wasn't even why I didn't even think to look at that jumper, because I mean, all the evidence points to the fact that this thing was booting QDOS 3 off a hard drive. All right, Gupom thinks the floppy isn't working because of a bork trace somewhere. All right, well, I'll put some jumpers on this board because I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I will have to use a controller card for at least the time being. I mean, it couldn't hurt putting a few jumpers on the board. I just hadn't thought that that was necessary because seemingly the evidence was pointing to the fact that someone was booting QDOS 3 off a 40 megabyte hard drive on this thing. I mean, Francois says maybe they work in reverse and disable unbridged. Jesse says his brain is fried at this point. Hard questions are not happening. Yeah, I mean, I am like, at this point, I'm like, the evidence seemed to suggest that this was a working system. The evidence seemed to point to no one. I don't think anyone removed these jumpers. I'll put it that way. I don't think someone reworked this board and removed those jumpers. I mean, is QDOS 3 network bootable? I mean, someone could make the argument that, but then again, why would there be a 40 megabyte disk? Because the same Dynamo machine printed both those labels. They're too consistent for it not to have been the same machine. Which is why another reason why I sure thought that QDOS 3 was being booted off a 40 megabyte disk. I mean, sure, maybe could QDOS be network booted and it just had a 40 megabyte disk that didn't work in it? I mean, I guess that's possible. All right, well, I think I got most of the vias cleared enough to maybe get some pins in. I don't know. Jesse says, between the DS1287 fiasco and that 44 pins of wiring, it's over for me. I'm sorry I missed your live stream, Jesse. I'll have to check it out later. I was making sure the trash got put out to the curb, and then I had to pack 2 eBay orders. Because despite the fact that my current stated handling time on eBay is 3 business days, I make it a point to ship next day unless I absolutely can't. And if I can't ship next day, then my ship rate is usually like 99.9% of the time I get it out in 2 days. I just add the extra day in case there's like bad weather that I wasn't expecting when it sells. That gives me that out. Not that a buyer probably cares, but it at least lets me say, well, 99.9% of the time, I get it out in 2 days. Bad weather pushes it to a third. Well, I mean, I'm meeting my commitment. Again, eBay always punishes the seller, so of course, once you ship it, then they update the estimated delivery time based on the stated delivery times of the couriers. So, of course. Hold on, I'm trying to find some header pins. Oh, wait. That's probably where they are. There we go. There they are. They were with the blue scuzzy stuff. Oh, you're fine, Francois, for quoting Stargate. Okay, I found the header pins. Yeah, I bought stuff to build blue scuzzies, and then of course new blue scuzzy models comes out after I do it. And at this rate, by the time I get them built, another blue scuzzy model's probably going to come out. New blue scuzzy V3s now running on whatever the name of the new core on the new Pico is. 50% faster, 30% lighter, 20% stronger. 100% Justin is making up numbers that mean absolutely nothing in terms of a blue scuzzy. Oh, come on. Oh, fine. One of the Vias is not playing nicely. Alright, fine. Let's try this. There we go. Alright, now I think my header pins will go in. Alright. They certainly didn't put these header pins in a place to make it easy to put a header here. Bum says I'm putting a Zulu Scuzzy in the SE because I'm selling the SE and I got the Zulu Scuzzy for free. Well, that makes sense to me. Oh, maybe these headers are... Oh, okay. Uh, that's why I can't get them to go in. It's because there's just enough space between each of the two sets of pins that you can't put a strip of 6 in. That's why I can't get them to go in. It's because they're 2, 2, 2, not. All right, well, there we go. There's one. Two. Three. Okay, well. All right, I got the pins in. Hopefully they will stay. Well, that didn't last as long as I'd hoped it would. All right. All right. You will have to hold. The viewing angle is going to be optimal for me getting the pins in, not for you seeing what I'm doing. One of them already fell out, because of course it did. Alright, let me see if I can hold one of the pins very carefully while soldering the other. At least tack it in. And oh, and of course the header fell out. Alright. No, that's what says I should probably scrap this 24-inch display. It goes dark for 2 seconds each time the fridge starts or stops. That is kind of weird that it can't ride through the fridge kicking on. Maybe it needs a recap. And before you say, wait a minute, it's not old enough to need one, well, I've seen a number of videos on YouTube of newer monitors where the fix was, drumroll please, a recap. Because they don't make them like they used to. I mean, the monitors and the capacitors. Yeah, seriously. It could be you got a bad cap in the power supply of your display. It might need recap. I can't remember which YouTuber it was, but yeah, they had a newish monitor, and it that was its problem. It needed recap. Um, okay, let me just at least clean the flux off the board a little bit. All right, if this fixes the floppy disk problem, I'm going to be somewhat embarrassed. But not completely embarrassed, because, I mean, how would I have known that this board was shipped in a configuration that would preclude using the floppy disk that was presumably needed to install QDOS 3? Or much less, if that's why the floppy drive isn't working, that's probably also why the hard drive isn't working. And how in the world would you boot QDOS from the hard drive if it also wasn't getting an enable signal? I mean, I will just be beyond confused. I mean, the at that point, the only thing I could think of that would be a logical conclusion would be that someone mixed and matched parts from multiples of these systems, and this board was in one that was like a network client that was for network booting, would be my only guess. But, I mean, I guess that actually could be a rational explanation. If someone mixed and matched parts. Alright, so at least I can. Or maybe they used a multi IO because they never figured out why they didn't work. Well, interestingly enough, the hard drive was plugged into the onboard IDE with the standard cable, so that's at least good because it's like a short cable. All right, so I'm just going to, at the moment, because I think this was the one that the chip enable went to. So I'm just going to plug that jumper in. I'm using a red jumper so that I can see which one it is more easily. I will plug my GoTech in because, believe me, we are going to be booting DOS if I get this thing to boot. Now, it'll be DOS 622 and not QDOS. Okay, I think that right there's probably enough. Yeah, I guess they could have used a multi-IO card and it just got pulled. I mean, and then if they swapped parts, maybe they put that hard drive in here. Like, oh, well, we better put this hard drive in so that maybe someone can use it. Because I guess it's always conceivable that maybe they swapped parts around because maybe they thought this board was, the motherboard on this one was in better shape than another, and all right. All right, let's go to F2 to set up. All right. Fine. All right. You know, I don't think it really matters what I set the hard drive to. No boot device available. Hmm. No. Okay. At least that single jumper didn't fix it. I don't know. Let me go ahead and put jumpers on the other two. Because one was marked hard drive, and one was marked hard drive and floppy drive. So, I don't know. Maybe you gotta have a jumper on the one to even enable both, and then maybe. There's no documentation. I did configure it. So diskette A is configured for 3.5-inch, 1.44 megabytes. I'm just going to set this to none to make sure it's not interfering. All right. Well, that's not it. Well, unfortunately, now I think that means it's. All right. Let's take a look at the PAL. I can't read it to even see if it's got code on it, but. I mean, it does look like it could have corroded pins or some green pins, or I don't know, maybe the socket needs replaced. Because obviously the chip select is going through this PAL. Oh, it also helps to unplug the keyboard to remove the motherboard. I still. All right, good night, Francois. Thanks for your help. We'll get this working at some point, even if it doesn't make sense to me at all as to why it's seemingly not working, and why I would have to add jumpers to enable something that, by all appearances, was working back in the day. Well, I mean, the PAL looks okay. Uh, the PAL socket is kind of. I mean, there's a little corrosion on it. It honestly doesn't look too bad, but then again, it could be just enough. All right. Let me see if I can find the pin that the. Okay, so. Okay, so there's our chip select. that's interesting. Okay, so jumpers. Okay, so we have continuity between the jumpers. That I should thought I identified a pin on that PAL that the chip select was going to, but I certainly don't have continuity to it from the socket. All right, well, let me see if I've got continuity to the pin, because maybe the... Okay, let me find my little mark on the board that tells me where the via is. Oops, I think I... No. That one there. Well, I don't seem to have a connection now. Capcom says, you know what computer is really cool? The VIC-20. It's the wonder computer of the 1980s. Plays great games too. Yeah, this one's playing a great game right now. The great game is called... I think the great game on this one is called The Computer is Gaming Me. Yeah, I actually was... Before I got too engrossed in this computer, I was going to... Oh, there we go. That was the... Hold on. Let me make sure I got the via I'm looking for here. There it is. That one. I accidentally erased my little pen mark. And now I've... yeah, I did ask will it game. I already removed the jumpers. Okay. I know that I did see continuity. Okay. Okay, so I still have continuity with... So this is the floppy chip select. I'll put a little arrow there. Because it looks like I'm going to run out of time before I get this fixed, most likely. Okay, I thought I found a connection to the the PAL. Maybe it was to the other pin. Not the PAL chip. Well, I no, I think I see something here. Which means I want to bring out my arch nemesis, the Dremel, at some point. Okay, so I'm seeing what looks like it's going to be really hard to pick up. So I see what looks like two traces going from somewhere around here to here. But I don't know if those are actually traces that still exist, or if those are like the traces that used to exist, but I can kind of see where they were on the board. Because the thing is, they don't look like the rest of the traces in that area. In fact, actually, Gupom's saying instead of a Dremel, try a knife or a fiber pin. I I don't have any. I've got a fiber pin, but I'm out of the fiberglass things for it. And I don't really like using the knife. But that certainly looks like, and I'm like starting to get tired. Yep, believe me, I am like fully aware of how weak this board is to the Dremel. Especially after well, let's see here. We're going to have to remove that socket. Oh, hello. That looks really nasty. Yeah, I see like four. Is that like four traces that look like they're just like totally gone? And that's not my, oh, okay. That's not my Dremling. Those traces are actually still there. Oh, in fact, actually, oh, I think that was Flux. Oh, ew. Ew, we're I think getting electrolyte and stuff off the board still. Yeah, I don't see how. I'm pretty sure at least one of those traces is broken. And unfortunately, I put header pins on top of them, which means on this already fragile board, I'm probably going to have to remove the header pins. Yeah, let me see. Uh, I am going to have to call an audible on removing the pin headers I just put on the board because I don't think you all realize how fragile this board probably really is. Actually, you might. All right. Well, that's not going to happen tonight. This intensive surgery of this board is going to have to wait for another stream, but let me at least try to get some of that. Well, actually, here's what I'm going to do. Well, I'm going to try to remove that socket real quick because I'd like to try to, I should probably, given where the corrosion is, I should probably remove the BIOS socket too. Maybe I shouldn't do this tonight. But given the fact that we have corrosion up to this socket, I'm kind of wondering if I shouldn't, just in the name of making sure all the corrosion is cleaned off the board. And actually, maybe a Q-tip will help me here. All right, good night, Francois. If I do this number here, right inside the BIOS chip, am I going to get green up off the board? Well, actually, maybe not. Okay, well, maybe the BIOS chip can stay. Or the socket. Maybe. Yeah. But yeah, we've got four traces here. That I don't see how there can be full continuity. Because I don't think there is. But yeah, if that PAL is doing chip select logic, which it probably is, then that's probably why the floppy drive's not being selected. It could also be why the hard drive's never selected. Although, seemingly, it seems like the system can. The system was able to see a hard drive, but it wasn't seeing it correctly. that might be another problem. Alright, I guess let's see just how bad this might be for... Maybe I can get these pins off that I just put on really easily. Oh, actually, those... Oh, they're not completely out. Now, how bad is the solder on the PAL socket? Oh, actually, it's not that bad at all. Maybe we can get the socket off real quick so we can at least preview the damage. Coming right out. Oh, that one's being stubborn. There we go. Okay, that one pin might be stubborn. Yeah, all the solder away from the battery's decent. Solder on the battery side? Yeah, I can tell it's oxidized. Alright. Now, I bet if I clip the socket... Some of these pins are going to come right out because I was able to get them desoldered. Some of them are going to require a little bit of extra heat. Alright. Let's see if I can get a few of these out real quick, and then I can inspect it because I'm curious what I'll probably be getting into probably next week because well, we're quite into this project now, aren't we? I think this has become the unintentional August project. Kind of works for me because I got some other things that need parts, and well, I haven't been able to order parts yet. So it really works for me to have a 386 to work on until I can get parts order. Which, if anyone's wondering, computer is one of the computers that I need to order parts for. Basically, I'm ordering better sockets before I try to replace more sockets on computer. I am not going to attempt to use the cheap ones on computer because I was having trouble. All right, let's see. Any of these pins? That one's okay. Those ones were loose. That's loose. That's loose. I think I'm now down to the. Oh, interesting enough, 3 down on the far end of the board. That I believe one of them's a ground pin. All right, try one more round of fresh solder. Actually, why don't I just do this? Now that I got fresh solder, I will put my needle nose on the plastic part of the socket. I will heat the pin. And we'll see if I can. That almost worked. Got one pin. One pin that's being stubborn. Heat, and I'm pulling on the plastic part of the socket, and there we go. I think the socket is out. Got one via that still has solder in it. Interestingly, it's not the via I thought I would have trouble with. It's, of course, probably because it's a ground. There we go. Little fresh solder. Now, little solder braid. Oh, I believe there might even still be a pin in that via. That that might be the case. Hmm. I'm not quite exactly sure what I've done to the board, if anything. Oh, worst case, I got a. Well, not. Well, the via doesn't look right. Well, probably we'll just have to bodge around that. What's another bodge among friends? Looks like. Yeah, it kind of looks like the via started coming up out of the board. Or maybe there was just solder in it. One. Oh, well, it's clear now. Maybe there was just okay, maybe that was a piece of pin because yeah, the via's definitely clear now. And it looks fine. Well, I mean, it looks a little. Well, I mean, it looks like it should take solder, so. Yeah, it looks like it's still there, mostly. Okay, well, I guess here's a preview of the corrosion damage that was under the PAL socket. And it looks like it might be a good call that I removed it. In fact, it almost looks like there might be a few vias that are not making good contact. Because that via looks suspect. That one might be suspect. It might be fine. These 4 traces here. Well, some of them I think are definitely broken right in this area. But at least now that I got the socket off, I can see that one. Yep, they all go to pins of the PAL and did I get this? Okay. Okay, I've got a little more desoldering to do with a floppy connector, but it's past midnight, so. But it does look like the 2 traces that might be coming from the floppy jumper do go there and there. I guess next time we get to this board, I'll get these 3. We'll get these 3 headers off that I just put on today. And I'll make a note to check those traces there. And yeah, I should probably pull the BIOS socket off because some of those traces look like we probably just need to make sure they're good. And then yeah, it looks like we need to start fixing between the PAL, just shoring those up. And then hopefully the PAL itself is good because that's like the one thing I. Well, if the PAL's not good, then we're sunk. Because I doubt anyone has dumped those PAL equations. And I'm not sending the PAL off to someone to decapsulate it in the hopes they can read off the programming. Anyways, yeah. So I guess that's it for this board tonight. It looks like random repairs. Not so random, because I only worked on one board. And it's still not fixed. So hopefully this isn't my 3-year tour of repair. 3-year tour of repair. So, if you find me with this board on some deserted island, well, yeah. Send help. Anyways, so don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you know next time I go live with this board. The board that already has all these nice bodge wires, and it looks like a few more will be joining it next week. And it looks like, because now I am in so deep on this board, why not? I'm thinking I may just continue with it at least one of the streams next week, although I would like to get back to the Commodores. So maybe we'll do Commodore and PC. Anyways, yeah. You'll want to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of that exciting repair action. And, yep, I guess one last reminder that the coffee, if you want to help with the coffee tip jar, the link is in the video description. But I always thank you for being here and hanging out in the chat, because I know for some of you all, that's all you can do. And I'm glad you're here to help and be cool in the chat and give suggestions and put up with me being a software guy that plays a hardware guy on YouTube. I mean, okay, I know some about hardware, but you probably don't want me designing a computer, because that'd be over my head. Now, repairing an old one, I'm learning. It's always a learning process. So anyways, I hope to see you here next time for more learning, more repairs, and possibly even celebration that, I don't know, if I get this thing up and running, I might just have to have a teal-colored cake made to enjoy. Maybe cupcakes. That might be easier. So anyways, hope to see you here next time. Take care, and God bless. Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you've liked what you've seen, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or live stream. And as always, thank you for all your support. I hope to see you next time. And until then, take care.